Hey, you're back in the garage with TheEZGZ. It is tube bending time. We're making the main roll cage hoop. We've already got the base down with 5-degree kicks in to our front end. If you're just tuning in, sorry to repeat some of this. So what I've done is gotten a 3/8 piece of plywood, and I've laid out, going off my drawings that don't give all the dimensions, and just looking at things in general. So we're laying this out. First thing I want to do is have center. So it doesn't matter what the true center is. I want the center of this board. So it's 48 inches wide. I got 24 inches for my center. Then I want my elbow height to be 15 inches above the floor, and I'm making the end of the plywood the floor. So I come up 15 inches and I made a line on both sides. I didn't make it all the way across. No need to. I might want to use this plywood for something else someday. So then the next thing was 27 inches in height. I agree with that. It gets the roll cage higher than my head, and a tall person would be protected as well. I'm a short, stubby little guy. So I made my next measurement, which was, I believe, 42. What does it say here? 42 inches, yes, from the height. So I did the same thing. I made a line, I marked it, I know where my center is, and this time I went ahead and marked my center, and from my center I know what the width of I want, and it's going to be, you're going to have to use the center of the pipe or the edge of the pipe, whatever you want. You're going to have to kind of get a feel for it. And this is what I ended up with. So you want your top, in my humble opinion, to be similar to the bottom rails. Those are 37.5, and I think I've got, looking at this from center to where I am right now, 36 to the center. How I arrived at this arc was I took my bending shoe off the bender and I laid it on the board, and I found my center. I used a 45-degree angle, and I lined 45-degree angle, and I lined it up on the edge of my tape. And then I marked the center of my radius right there. You have shrink and you have gain on when you are using a bender, and you have to allow for that. So once I got that set up, I had to decide how far I need to come in to allow for the proper amount of shrinkage. The first time I tried it, it was 5 3/4. I used that piece of actually that's chain link fence tubing. It's galvanized tubing. It's a little smaller diameter than 1.5 inches, but it was my test piece. I have a bunch of that I got free from a neighbor, so no loss if I screwed it up. And it turns out, because I had excellent help, we got it the first time. So now what I'm going to do is I have to duplicate the bend on my bender, and I do not have a degree wheel and pointer on my bender. I was laying awake trying to figure out how to do that, but what I'm going to do is use the edge. This is aluminum angle, and I just cut it in the middle, and I set it down the edge of the tape. The inside edge of the tape is my actual dimension that I'm shooting for. And I have to move this just a little bit. It moves pretty easy. I could use vice grips or something with a little more bite to it, but this is working fine. This is working fine. I just used it. We're going on the real deal this time. We made some changes. For that particular radius, I needed to go from the center of this edge and come out. The first time I went 5 3/4 and I cut it, it came out a little bit wide. When I put my center, I marked center on my pipe and it come out a little farther. So I've just moved the whole thing over to correct that 1 inch, and then I came in another inch on this side, and it just sweet as could be. So that was a total of 2 inches, an inch on each side that I shrunk it. I hope this is making sense to you if you're trying to do something similar. This is a really good book, Ugly's Electrical References, and there's a section in there on tube bending and a description. Yeah, right. Somebody explain that to me. Here's a part that scared me. Natural trigonomic functions. Aha! I didn't make it through Algebra 1 Part 2. Trig and, yeah, it's beyond me. All right, so I've got my 1.5 DOM steel pipe. I ran my tape measure all the way around. On the last piece, for my application, it was a total of 10.5. And it was a little bit long, and every inch counts. So I had some extra, a couple inches on each side. So that's 4 inches. So I'm making this one 10 foot 4 inches. Now, I've just got it laid here in my bender. If you have a Greenlee 882 bender, if you're bending this direction, you put it on this side. This is really neat how this comes apart. I've got hydraulic pressure. I haven't started the bend. This whole thing could explode. But here's my center, and I've marked it with a C. And then I came in my 12 inches, because that's what I get when I look at my bend. From center, it's 12 inches. So that's why it really helps. I thought about just using some paper, but something a little more firmer like this plywood works real well. I tried snapping lines on the garage floor, and that worked fine for the base. But for this hoop, I needed something further, and I got a suggestion from an engineer that I might consider styrofoam board. But this particular board was damaged in the corner, and it was marked down 70%, and it was actually cheaper than the styrofoam board. So this is what I'm going with. So this is pretty neat. It's got couplings, and it's got some description on how to use this. This is now my own personal tool. I'm leveling everything as I go, and it just so happens that my garage floor and everything is really level, close to it. And so even though this is the first bend, I'm putting my weld seam for the DOM. I want that on the inside of my hoop. Don't ask me why. That's just the way I want it. So I'm going to put you in the camera stand here, and we're going to start bending some pipe, and I'll just show you. I probably won't do the whole thing. It just maybe I can speed it up as you're watching it when I finally edit, if I can figure out how to do that. So I'm bringing my test piece here. I've got everything set up the way I want it. I turn my hydraulics off, so I'm pumping. The shoes, this has some cool shoes on that sit on the floor, and so here we go. Man, this is so much stronger than the other one. The fence tubing, of course it would be, right? Cross over here, and this piece of lane angle is underneath here, and this is like almost the center line, so I can use this. I know I have to keep on a bit. I'm not there yet. It's not a roll, it's not pressure, it's on. And if you've got a good way of doing it, this is not the most efficient way, I'm sure. Now, there's going to be a certain amount of spring back when I relieve the pressure. I'm almost there. Now, it said in the directions to count the number of pumps. I don't know why, but I don't trust that. We're almost there. We are there. Now I'm going to go over. Now this is just a matter of trial and error. So I've got this on that. I want to look at my edge of my tubing. Looks pretty darn good. So that's all there is to it. You release this. You can take the flip top off. You can take your pipe out. And now we're going to do the other side. Action! Actually, the action's over. Oh. This 1.5 DOM, you could feel the jack working harder. You could feel the strength of that 095 1.5 DOM tubing. It's not pipe, it's tubing. And it fits in this Greenlee bender, and it worked. And I used that bender, gosh, over 25 years ago. Let me say that. This is not welded in. It's just kind of balanced. I'll probably have it lean back a little bit more. And I wanted it to clear these seats. And that's about the seat height that the buggy seats are going to be sitting in here. So, yeah. And I want to use these seats. It's going to be a snug fit, let me tell you. But this next rail comes here in the elbow, and it will have a slight taper and kick in and then drop down to grab onto the front beam, which is just a spare. This isn't the final one that's going to go on there, I don't think. So, yeah, I'm real happy how this turned out. And I'm starting the new year out with this. For some reason, out of that whole bend, the whole series of bends, this was 10 foot, 4 inches long, and this leg ended up, for some reason, being a 1/4 inch longer. And it's really flat and true. Laying it on the floor, boy, It took a lot of pain to get it there, but if you take your time, it's worth it, I think. Personally, I think. Yeah. I'm going to have to weigh this on a scale, but I think we'll call that a wrap for this part of this video, and we'll continue on. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ out.